39.7 million euros for Ezri Konsa to Liverpool. And here's the thing, that number is not shocking at all, which honestly shocks me more. Nothing is signed yet. This is talk, not a deal, so keep that in mind. But let's get into why the number itself makes sense. It sits right inside his estimated range of 35.7 to 43.7 million. He has around 23 months left on his Villa contract, so their leverage was already slipping, and at 28, he is smack in his peak years. Today's episode has both. Some business is done, some is still just noise, and every single fee gets measured against what the player is actually worth. Watch this one and drop your verdict in the comments as we go. 39.7 million euros. For a 28-year-old center-back with 2 years left on his deal, that is the number attached to Ezri Konsa to Liverpool. And I want to be clear right away, this one is not confirmed. This is a rumor. Nothing signed, nothing official, just a reported figure as of the 28th of July, 2026. And that is exactly the interesting part. Because normally when a fee this size gets floated, my first instinct is to pick it apart. Not this time. Let's start with the range. The estimated market value for Konsa sits at 39.7 million euros, with a spread between 35.7 and 43.7 million. The reported fee is 39.7 million. That is not just inside the range, that is the exact midpoint. If this deal happens at this number, Liverpool are not overpaying, and Villa are not undervaluing their own player. That almost never happens in this market. Usually, one side blinks. Here, on paper, nobody has to. Now let's talk about why Villa might actually want this done, and quickly. Konsa's contract runs until June 2028. That sounds like plenty of time, until you actually count it. That is roughly 23 months left. 23 months is the point where a selling club stops holding the leverage and starts feeling the clock. Any longer and Villa could dictate terms. Any shorter and they would be forced into a fire sale next summer. Right now they are sitting in the one window where they can actually get full value instead of a discount. That timing is not an accident. That is a club reading its own contract situation correctly and acting on it before the number drops. And then there is the player himself, 28 years old. In center-back terms, that is not decline, that is the peak. You are not paying for potential anymore, and you are not gambling on a project. You are paying for a player who should be giving you his best 2 or 3 seasons starting right now. Ball-playing center-back, 180 centimeters, built more on positioning and distribution than on being the biggest man in the box. For a Liverpool side that wants to play out from the back under pressure, that profile fits the job description. This is not a panic buy to fill a hole. This is a player bought for what he does well, at the age he does it best. So here is where I land. Fee inside the range. Contract situation that favors the seller acting now rather than waiting. Age that lines up with peak output. Every piece of this points the same direction. If it goes through at 39.7 million, this is about as clean as a defender transfer gets in this market. No inflation, no desperation. Just a number that matches the player. What I will say is this. It is still a rumor. Nothing is signed. So do not go calling this a done deal in the comments, because right now it is not one. What I am reacting to is the number being talked about, and that number checks out. So here is my question for you, straight yes or no. If Liverpool sign Ezri Konsa for 39.7 million euros, is that a fair price? Yes or no? Put it in the comments. I want to see where this splits. That is Konsa to Liverpool. Not confirmed yet, but if the number holds, it is one of the more honest fees you will see reported all summer. 20 million euros. For a player Villa's own model says is worth, at the very top end, 12.5 million. Let that sit for a second. Rubén Vargas, Sevilla to Aston Villa, reported today, July 28th. And I need to say this clearly before we go any further. This is not confirmed. This is a rumor. Nothing is signed, nothing is official, so do not go treating this as done business, because it very much is not. But let's talk about the number anyway, because the number is the story here. Vargas is 27 years old, a Swiss international, a wide playmaker who plays that left striker or left midfield role, wherever you want to slot him. His estimated market value sits at 11.4 million euros, with a range of 10.2 up to 12.5. Villa are being linked at 20 million. That is not a small overpay. That is nearly double the top of his valuation range. And when the number blows that far past the ceiling, you are not paying for the player anymore, you are paying for the noise around him. So point one, and this is the biggest one, 20 million is well above the 10.2 to 12.5 range. There is no version of this deal, if it happens at that fee, where Villa are getting good value on paper. None. Point two, Vargas is under contract at Sevilla until June 2029. That is around 35 months still left on the deal. 35 months. That is Sevilla holding all the leverage in this negotiation. When a selling club has a player locked in that long, they do not need to sell cheap, and they clearly haven't. This fee is exactly what you'd expect from a club negotiating from a position of total strength. Point three, and this one actually works in Villa's favor a bit. Vargas is 27. That is not a punt on potential. That is not a project. 27 is peak years for a wide playmaker. If you're going to overpay for someone, this is at least the age where you overpay for output, not hope. Now, here's why I think this fee is inflated in the first place. Villa are not the only club in this. Newcastle are in there, Brighton are in there. That's 3 clubs chasing the same 27-year-old Swiss winger. And that is exactly why nothing is settled yet. When you've got 3 clubs sniffing around one player with 3.5 years left on his deal, the price does not go down. It goes up. Every time Newcastle calls Sevilla, Villa's number gets bigger. Every time Brighton calls, it gets bigger again. 20 million might not even be the final figure. That's the uncomfortable part. So where does that leave us? A player valued at 11.4 million, being chased by 3 clubs, contract running well into 2029, and a rumored fee of 20 million. My verdict? Overpaid. Clearly overpaid. The contract length explains why Sevilla can ask for it. The competition explains why it might actually get paid. But neither of those things makes it good business for whoever signs the check. Here's my question for you. Is this Villa paying peak years premium for a player who'll start on day one? Or is this 3 clubs bidding against each other until somebody panics and pays double what he's worth? Tell me which one it is in the comments. Until this is actually confirmed, treat it exactly like what it is, a number floating around while 3 clubs circle one man. I'll be back the second there's an actual fee on paper. So that's your lot for today. A few done deals, signed and sealed, and a few that are still just talk, still just smoke, and I told you exactly which was which as we went. Nothing rounded off before it's actually rounded off. Now, I want an argument. Out of everything we covered, which one was the worst piece of business? Not the biggest, the worst. Comments, go. I read every one of them. I reply too. Subscribe so you catch tomorrow's business the second it lands. See you then.